The hospital phone rang at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was still groggy from the medication they'd given me after my heart attack. Mild, they called it. Didn't feel mild when it happened. Calvin. It was Mrs. Henderson from next door. Her voice was tight with concern. I don't know how to tell you this, but there's a tow truck at your house. They're loading up your Ford. My truck. The blue 1987 Ford pickup that sat in my driveway like an old friend. What do you mean, loading it up? Your son-in-law is here. He's signing papers. Said you told him to sell it while you were in the hospital. My chest tightened. The heart monitor beside my bed started beeping faster. I never told him that. Oh, Calvin. I'm so sorry. The truck's already on the flatbed. They're pulling away right now. I sat up too fast. The room spun. A nurse rushed in, checking my vitals, asking if I was okay. But I wasn't okay. My truck was gone. The truck I'd restored with my wife before she died. The truck that held every memory of better days. He sold my truck. I called Brett immediately. My hand shook as I dialed. He answered on the third ring, casual as Sunday morning. Calvin, how you feeling? What did you do with my truck? Silence. Then a sigh, like I was being unreasonable. Look, we needed to make some decisions while you were unavailable. You're not going to be driving anymore, right? Doctor's orders. The truck was just sitting there losing value. That wasn't your decision to make. Someone had to be practical. His voice had that edge it always got when challenged. The money's going toward household expenses. You'll thank me later. I heard Melanie in the background. My daughter. She said something I couldn't make out. Is Melanie there? Put her on. She's busy right now. Look, you need to focus on recovering. We're handling things. That's what family does. Brett, we'll talk when you're home. Get some rest. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, staring at the white hospital wall. The heart monitor beeped steadily. Everything felt hollow. My daughter had let this happen. Had she agreed to it? Had she known? The nurse came back, gently took the phone from my hand. Mr. Rourke, you need to stay calm. Your heart needs rest. But rest wasn't coming. Not anymore. That truck meant everything. People who didn't know me wouldn't understand. It was just an old Ford, dented and faded. But it was mine and Helen's project. When she got sick with cancer 12 years ago, she made me promise to finish restoring it. We bought it at an estate sale, barely running. Spent weekends in the garage together, her handing me tools even when she could barely stand. Promise me you'll drive this when I'm gone, she'd said near the end. Promise you won't just let it sit and rot. I kept that promise. Drove it every week. To the hardware store, to her grave, to visit Melanie. That truck was Helen's last gift to me. Our last project together. And Brett had sold it like it was scrap metal. The heart monitor started beeping faster again. A nurse rushed in, adjusted my four, told me to breathe slowly. But every breath hurt. Not from the heart attack. From the betrayal. Helen would have been devastated. Not just about the truck, but about what it meant. That our daughter had married someone who could do this. Someone who saw her father's memories as assets to liquidate. I closed my eyes and saw Helen's face. I'm sorry, I whispered. I let him disrespect what we built. They discharged me 2 days earlier than planned. I insisted. The doctors warned me about stress and rest and taking it easy. I nodded and signed the papers and left. The house felt empty when I walked in. Different. Brett and Melanie had been staying here while I was hospitalized, taking care of things supposedly. But it just looked neglected. Mail piled on the counter. Dishes in the sink. The kind of mess that said nobody really cared. I walked to the window and looked at the driveway. The empty space where my truck should have been hit me like a physical blow. Just oil stains on concrete now. On the kitchen table, I found a receipt. Vehicle sale agreement. Brett had sold my truck for $2,800 to some cash buyer. A truck worth at least $8,000 if he'd bothered to list it properly. He'd taken the first offer that came along. The cash buyer's name was printed at the bottom. An address 2 counties away. My truck was gone. Really gone. I sat down at the table, still wearing my jacket, and stared at that receipt. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator, humming, and my own breathing. Then I noticed something else. The garage door was slightly open. The garage looked wrong. Empty spaces on the shelves where tools used to be. My old handplane set that belonged to my father gone. The vintage drill press I'd restored gone. A metal toolbox full of socket wrenches gone. I stood there trying to make sense of it. This wasn't just the truck. This was systematic, deliberate. Mrs. Henderson appeared at the garage door. "Calvin, you're home. How are you feeling? Did you see anyone taking things from my garage?" Her face fell. "Oh, sweetie, I was going to tell you. Brett's been loading stuff into his car. Said you told him to sell things you didn't need anymore. Was that not true?" "No, it wasn't true." She wrung her hands. "He's been doing it for weeks, Calvin. Even before you went to the hospital. I thought it was strange, but he's your son-in-law. I assumed you knew. Weeks. He'd been stealing from me for weeks. I'm so sorry," she continued. "If I'd known, I would have called the police. It's not your fault." My voice sounded far away. After she left, I walked through the garage slowly, cataloging everything missing. Thousands of dollars worth of tools. But more than that, history. My father's tools. Things I planned to pass down to Melanie someday. All sold. All gone. Like my life was being liquidated piece by piece. Brett and Melanie came by that evening. I was sitting in my chair when they walked in, using their key like they owned the place. "Dad," Melanie rushed over, hugged me. "You should have told us you were getting discharged. We would have picked you up." I didn't hug back, just sat there, feeling the weight of everything. Brett stood by the door, arms crossed. "You look better. Color's back. We need to talk about my truck," I said quietly. Brett's jaw tightened. "We already discussed this. You can't drive anymore." Doctor said to avoid stress. "Not that I'm disabled." I looked at Melanie. "Did you know he was going to sell it?" She glanced at Brett, then down at her feet. "Oh, we talked about it. The hospital bills are expensive, Dad. You thought you'd sell my property without asking." Brett stepped forward. "Look, someone has to manage things. You're too old to be making big decisions right now. That truck was a liability. The tools in the garage were just collecting dust. We're trying to help you. Too old. Just collecting dust. Like I was already dead and they were clearing out my estate." "Get out," I said. "Dad," Melanie started. "Both of you. Get out of my house." They left, but not before Brett muttered something about ungrateful old men. I sat in that chair until darkness fell, my phone in my lap, recording app running. I'd captured every word. Sunday morning, I drove my rental car to the cemetery. Helen's grave was in the older section, under a maple tree we'd picked out together. I sat on the grass next to her headstone, the way I always did. Told her about the heart attack, about the truck, about Brett. About how her daughter had stood there and let it happen. "I let you down," I said. "I let him disrespect what we built. That truck was ours, Helen. He took it like it meant nothing." A breeze rustled the maple leaves. The morning was cool, quiet. I stayed there for an hour, just sitting with her memory. Finally, I made myself a promise. Not revenge. Not anger. Just dignity. I would handle this the way Helen would have wanted, carefully, legally, with my head clear and my conscience clean. I pulled out my phone and searched for attorneys in the area. Found one who specialized in property law and family disputes. Left a voicemail explaining my situation. He called back 20 minutes later. "Mr. Rourke, I think we should meet. Tomorrow morning work for you?" "Yes," I said. I stood up, brushed grass off my pants, and touched Helen's headstone one more time. "I'll make this right," I promised. Then I drove home to start documenting everything. The attorney's office was small, professional, filled with law books and the smell of coffee. His name was Mr. Garrett, middle-aged with tired eyes that had seen too many family disputes. I showed him everything. The vehicle sale receipt. Photos of the empty garage. Text messages from Brett. Mrs. Henderson's statement as a witness. "And the house they're living in?" Mr. Garrett asked. "I own it. Bought it 15 years ago. Kept it as a rental property. When Melanie and Brett got married, I offered it to them for minimal rent. $400 a month, just enough to cover property taxes. Mr. Garrett made notes. So they're tenants. Do have a lease agreement? I pulled out a folder. Renewed every 2 years. Current lease expires in 6 weeks. He looked up, something shifting in his expression. Mr. Rourke, legally, you have significant leverage here. Brett has no claim to that property. He's been stealing from you, selling your possessions without authorization. That's theft. What are my options? Several. But first, we need to document everything thoroughly. Every missing item, every conversation, every message. Can you do that? Already started, I said, showing him my phone with dated photos and recordings. Mr. Garrett smiled slightly. Good. Most people come to me emotional and unprepared. You're thinking clearly. My wife taught me that. Stay calm, stay smart, handle problems with your head, not your heart. Wise woman. He closed his folder. Let's build your case. I spent the next 2 weeks documenting everything. Took photos of every empty space in my garage, matched them with old pictures showing what used to be there. Made a spreadsheet listing every missing item with estimated value and sentimental worth. Checked online marketplaces and found 3 of my tools listed by users in my area. Saved screenshots, noted the dates. One was my father's hand plane set, listed for $350. I felt sick looking at it. Brett sent text messages during this time trying to smooth things over. Just trying to help. No need to be difficult about this. I didn't respond. Just saved every message. Melanie called crying one night. Dad, please. Brett's under a lot of stress. His job situation is tough right now. We didn't mean to hurt you. His job situation? I asked carefully. He's been doing contract work, but it's not steady. We're behind on some bills. So you sold my truck to pay his bills. Silence. It wasn't like that, but it was exactly like that. Then Brett called, different tone. Aggressive. You're making this harder than it needs to be. The truck money went to good use. And those tools? You weren't using them. I'm just cleaning up your life. I stayed quiet, letting him talk, recording every word. Besides, he continued, where else would we go? You won't kick out your own daughter. So let's just move past this. We'll see, I said and hung up. Melanie showed up at my house alone on a Wednesday evening. She looked exhausted. Thinner than I remembered. Dark circles under her eyes. Can I come in, Dad? I stepped aside. We sat in the living room, the same room where she played as a child, where Helen used to read her bedtime stories. I'm sorry, she said immediately. About everything. About the truck, about the tools. I knew it was wrong, but Brett kept saying we had no choice. There's always a choice. She wiped her eyes. I know that now. Dad, he's been pressuring me. About money, about asking you for things. I thought if I went along with it, things would get better. But they're not better. Nothing's better. I watched my daughter fall apart, and part of me wanted to fix it immediately. That's what fathers do. But another part, the part Helen had sharpened over our decades together, knew that fixing it for her wouldn't help her grow. Are you happy with him? I asked. She shook her head. I don't know anymore. Do you know where the truck money went? Bills, he said. But I never saw which bills. Our accounts are separate. Separate accounts. Red flags everywhere. Dad, do you hate me now? I reached over and took her hand. I could never hate you. But I can't let this continue. Not for my sake, and honestly, not for yours either. She nodded, crying quietly. We sat there until it got dark. The lease renewal notice came due in March. Standard procedure, I always send it 60 days before expiration, giving tenants time to decide. This time, I didn't send a renewal. Instead, I sent a notice that the lease would not be renewed. Professional, legal, typed on proper letterhead. Gave them the required 60 days to vacate. Brett called within an hour of receiving it. He was laughing. Actually laughing. This is a joke, right? You're trying to make a point. The lease expires May 1st. You need to be out by then. We're not going anywhere, Calvin. Where would we even go? You can't kick out your own daughter. Nobody would support you doing that. The law supports me. The house is mine. The lease is ending. Those are the facts. His laughter stopped. You're serious. Completely. You heartless old man. After everything we've done for you. Taking care of your house, helping with your bills. You've paid $400 a month and stolen thousands in property. Don't pretend you've been charitable. He started yelling then, threats mixed with insults. I held the phone away from my ear until he finished. Then I said calmly, you have 60 days. Use them wisely. I hung up. Melanie called 10 minutes later, sobbing. Dad, please. We can't afford to move. Please don't do this. I love you, Melanie. But this is happening. It was the hardest thing I'd said in years. The eviction notice was delivered by certified mail on March 15th, legal, formal, unambiguous. They had until May 1st to vacate the property. Brett showed up at my house that afternoon. Didn't knock, just started pounding on the door. I opened it with my phone recording in my pocket. You can't do this, he shouted. You can't throw us out. I'll fight you. I'll sue you. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of father you are. The kind who owns his property and enforces his rights. We have rights too. Tenant rights. You do. And I've followed every legal requirement. You have 46 days remaining. He pushed past me into my house. I'm not leaving until you tear up that notice. Then I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Call them. Tell them you're kicking your daughter onto the street. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Brett's face changed from red to pale. You're serious. Always. He left before the police arrived, but they came anyway. Took my statement, documented his forced entry. The officer, a young woman with a kind face, told me I was within my rights to pursue a restraining order if needed. Some people think family means you can't protect yourself, she said. That's not true. You have every right to your property and your safety. After they left, I sat in my chair and felt the weight of it all. This wasn't how family was supposed to work. But maybe sometimes family needed to break before it could heal properly. Brett tried to prevent me from entering the property 2 weeks later. I'd scheduled a routine inspection, gave them proper notice, everything by the book. When I arrived, the door was locked with a chain I hadn't authorized. Brett stood on the other side, smirking. Property's occupied. You can't just walk in whenever you want. I'm the owner. This is a scheduled inspection. Open the door. No. I called the police again. They arrived within 10 minutes, the same officer from before. She looked at Brett through the door window, then at me. Mr. Rourke has the legal right to inspect his property with proper notice, she explained to Brett. Open the door or we'll treat this as a lockout situation. Brett reluctantly opened the door. The officer stayed while I did my inspection. The house was in poor condition. Damage to walls, carpet stains, broken fixtures. I documented everything with photos. Neighbors had gathered on their lawns, watching. Mrs. Henderson gave me a supportive wave. Others just stared. Brett stood on the front lawn after, humiliated, shouting about dignity and respect. The officer told him calmly, "You've had multiple warnings. Another incident, and you'll be arrested for harassment." Brett looked at me with pure hatred. "You'll regret this. I promise you that." I drove away without responding. Let him make his threats. The law was on my side, and I had documentation of everything. The neighborhood had noticed, more than I'd realized. Mr. Palmer from 3 houses down stopped me at the mailbox one morning. "Calvin, I don't mean to pry, but we've all been worried about you. That son-in-law of yours has been acting strange for months." "Strange how?" "Lots of different cars showing up, people loading things out of your garage. We thought maybe you were having an estate sale, but it seemed odd, especially when you were in the hospital." Mrs. Henderson joined us. "I took photos, Calvin. I hope you don't mind. I was concerned he was stealing from you." She showed me her phone. Dated pictures of Brett loading my tools into different vehicles. Timestamps, clear images. She documented everything without me even asking. "I'll email these to you," she said, "in case you need them." Other neighbors came forward with similar stories. Brett selling items on their community message board. Meeting buyers in my driveway. Always when he thought nobody was paying attention. But people always pay attention. Especially in neighborhoods where folks have lived for decades, where they care about each other. "Thank you," I told them. All of you. This helps more than you know. He's not a good man, Mr. Palmer said quietly. We've known it for a while. Glad you're standing up to him. I went home with a folder full of evidence and something I hadn't felt in weeks. Support. I wasn't alone in this. Melanie hit her breaking point in early April. She showed up at my house at 11 p.m., crying so hard she could barely breathe. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. I let her in, made her tea, waited until she could talk. I checked our account, she said. Brett's been hiding things. Credit cards I didn't know about. Loans in both our names. We're drowning in debt, and he kept telling me it was under control. How much debt? Over $40,000. And my savings account, the one Mom helped me start? It's empty. He had access to it. He drained it last year. My hands tightened around my coffee mug. Helen's savings, gift to Melanie gone. The truck money, the tool money, none of it went to bills. It went to his debt. His gambling, I think. Maybe drugs. I don't know anymore. She looked at me with swollen eyes. How did I not see this? Because you loved him. And people we love can hide things we don't want to see. What do I do, Dad? You leave him. You rebuild. You learn from this. She nodded slowly. Can I stay with you? Just until I figure things out. Of course. She cried into my shoulder like she was 12 years old again, and I held her like I used to when she'd scraped her knees or lost a friend. Some things never change. Parents protect their children. Even when their children are adults who've made terrible choices. I made my decision the next morning. No yelling, no drama, just clarity. I called Mr. Garrett. I want to sell the house. The one Brett and Melanie are in? Yes. Melanie's moving out. She's leaving him. I want this done quickly and legally. Understood. I'll prepare the paperwork. You'll need to wait until the lease expires before closing, but we can list it now. I contacted a realtor that afternoon. She came out, walked through the property while Brett was at work, assessed the market value. Given the location and size, I'd list at $285,000. It'll sell fast. This neighborhood is desirable. List it. Within 3 days, we had an offer. $292,000. All cash, buyer ready to close as soon as possible. They were investors, didn't care about the condition. They'd fix it themselves. I accepted the offer. The closing was scheduled for May 15th, 2 weeks after Brett's lease expiration. Perfect timing. Legal, clean, final. When Brett found out the house was listed, he sent me a text. You're really doing this? Selling our home. I replied simply, it's not your home. It's my property. And yes, he called back immediately, screaming. I didn't answer. Just saved the voicemail for my records. Melanie moved into my guest room that weekend. She was quiet, broken, but determined. I'm getting a lawyer, she said. Filing for divorce. Good, I told her. That's good. The house showings began. Brett tried to interfere with every single one. He'd blast music during showings. Leave trash everywhere. Stand in the driveway and tell potential buyers about property issues that didn't exist. The realtor, a patient woman named Ms. Thornton, handled him professionally. Sir, you're interfering with a legal property transaction. I've documented every incident. Continue and I'll pursue legal action. Brett backed down slightly, but he still lurked during showings, glaring at everyone. One couple walked through, looked at everything, and said they'd seen worse. Some tenants are difficult. We're buying it as is anyway. Doesn't bother us. They increased their offer to $295,000. I accepted immediately. Brett sent me an email that night. Long, rambling, full of accusations about my cruelty, my selfishness, how I was destroying his life. I forwarded it to Mr. Garrett without comment. He's panicking, Mr. Garrett said when we spoke. People in his position often lash out when they realize they've lost control. Stay calm. Don't engage. Let him rage into the void. I visited the house one final time before closing. Walked through the rooms, remembered when Helen and I had first bought it. How we planned to eventually retire there, maybe rent it to young families starting out. We'd never imagined it would become the center of a family civil war. I locked the door behind me and didn't look back. Melanie found the proof in early May, a week before closing. She'd gotten access to Brett's laptop while he was out. Found files he'd been hiding. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. "Dad, look at this." She showed me everything. Brett had taken out 3 personal loans using their joint income information. Had maxed out credit cards in Melanie's name. Had a gambling problem documented through online betting accounts. The truck money, gone in 2 days to pay off a sports betting debt. The tool money, same thing. Everything he'd stolen from me had vanished into his addiction. He told me we were building a future, Melanie said. He was just digging us into a hole. She printed everything, gave copies to her divorce attorney, to Mr. Garrett, to me. Evidence for 3 different legal proceedings. "How did I marry this person?" she asked that night over dinner. "You married who he pretended to be," I said. "That's not your fault. But staying would be your choice." "You're not staying." "No," she agreed. "I'm not." She'd already found her own apartment, small but affordable. Had applied for better jobs. Was going to therapy twice a week. My daughter was broken, but she was rebuilding, just like her mother had taught her. I was proud of her. Even through all this pain, I was proud she'd found the strength to leave. Brett showed up at my door on April 29th, the day before his lease expired. He was alone. No bravado, no aggression. Just exhausted and desperate. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I let him in. We sat in the living room. He looked at me with empty eyes. "I know I'm messed up. I know I've been a terrible person. I'm asking you to reconsider the sale. Give me another chance." "Why would I do that?" "Because I'm your son-in-law. Because Melanie's divorcing you. She's already moved out." His face crumbled. I know she did. But maybe if we had more time, if the pressure was off, we could work things out. "Brett, you stole from me. You sold my truck, my tools, things that belonged to my father. You've shown me exactly who you are. I'll pay you back. Everything. I'll get help from my gambling. I'll change." I looked at this man who'd married my daughter, who'd convinced her he'd build a life with her, while secretly destroying everything around him. "Some lessons you have to learn the hard way," I said. "This is yours. I hope you get the help you need. But I won't be part of your recovery. That's your responsibility." He sat there for a long moment, then stood. "I understand," he said quietly. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. "I really am sorry. For what it's worth." "I believe you are," I said. "But sorry doesn't fix what's broken." He left. I never saw him again. Closing day was May 15th. Mr. Garrett and I met at the title company office. The buyers were there, cheerful and efficient. Papers were signed, keys exchanged, checks processed. The house sold for $295,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage and closing costs, I walked away with $267,000. Brett and Melanie had been required to vacate by May 1st. According to Ms. Thornton, Brett had left on April 30th at 11 p.m., loading his car under cover of darkness. The house had been left in terrible condition. Holes in walls, damaged flooring, trash everywhere. The buyers had expected it. They planned a full renovation anyway. I signed the final document, shook hands with the buyers, and walked out to my rental car. Mr. Garrett walked with me. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Relieved," I said. "But mostly relieved. You handled this the right way. Legally properly, without losing control. Many people in your position wouldn't have managed that. My wife taught me to think before I act. To handle problems with dignity." He nodded. "She taught you well." I drove to the cemetery that afternoon, sat by Helen's grave, and told her everything. About the sale, about Melanie leaving Brett, about how I'd protected what we'd built together. The maple tree rustled in the breeze. I felt at peace for the first time in months. Brett's moving day had been quiet but absolute. According to neighbors, he left with just a backpack and 2 trash bags of belongings. Everything else abandoned or destroyed. Melanie's moving day had been different. She'd left with dignity. 2 suitcases, her important documents, her mother's jewelry I'd kept safe for her. She'd cleaned her room, left a note thanking her father for everything. Now she was living in her own small apartment across town. We had dinner together twice a week. She was working at a dentist's office, good pay, stable hours. Her divorce was progressing. One night, she broke down crying at my kitchen table. I wasted 5 years with him, Dad. 5 years I'll never get back. You learned something valuable. That's not wasted time. What did I learn? That you're stronger than you thought. That you can walk away from someone you love when they're destroying you. That's not easy. Most people never learn that. She wiped her eyes. Mom would be disappointed in me. Your mother would be proud of you. For leaving. For rebuilding. For having the courage to admit you were wrong and change direction. We sat there in comfortable silence. The same kitchen where Helen used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings. Where Melanie had done homework at the same table. Some things remained constant even when everything else fell apart. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. Melanie started therapy in June. Real therapy, not just crisis counseling. She went every Tuesday afternoon, working through the betrayal, the financial abuse, the realization that she'd been manipulated for years. She called me after her third session. My therapist says I need to accept accountability for my part in what happened to you. So I'm calling to say I'm sorry, Dad. Really sorry. For letting Brett sell your truck. For not standing up to him when he stole your tools. For choosing him over you. I forgive you. I forgave you weeks ago. Oh. How can you forgive me so easily? Because you're my daughter. And because forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing not to let it poison the future. She cried. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. You deserve someone who believes in you, who supports you, who tells you the truth, even when it's hard. That's what parents do. Brett, meanwhile, had moved in with a friend according to mutual acquaintances. Was working odd jobs, still bitter, still blaming everyone else for his problems. Some people never learn. The sale proceeds sat in my account, secure and untouched. I paid off my hospital bills, set aside funds for future medical needs. The rest I was saving. Maybe I'd take a trip. Maybe I'd help Melanie with a down payment on a house someday when she was ready. Maybe I'd just keep it as security. For now, I had peace. And that was worth more than any amount of money. On a warm Saturday in July, I walked into the Ford dealership. The same dealership where Helen and I had bought our first truck 40 years ago. A young salesman approached me, friendly and eager. Can I help you find something today? I'm looking for a truck. Nothing fancy, just something reliable and comfortable. He showed me several options. New models with technology one didn't understand. I kept walking until I found it. A blue Ford F-150, simple and solid. The color was almost the same as my old truck. This one, I said. Good choice. It's a great truck. Any particular reason you're buying today? Fresh start, I said. The paperwork took an hour. I paid in cash, signed the title, got the keys. Drove off the lot in my new truck, windows down, radio playing classic rock. I drove to the cemetery, parked under the maple tree, and just sat there looking at Helen's headstone through the windshield. Got us a new truck, I said. Not as special as the old one, but it's ours. Well, mine now. But you're still here with me. I touched the steering wheel, felt the newness of it, the possibility. This wasn't about replacing what Brett had stolen. This was about moving forward. About refusing to let theft and betrayal define my future. I started the engine and drove home. The truck ran smooth and quiet. I smiled, really smiled, for the first time since that phone call in the hospital. Melanie and I rebuilt our relationship slowly over the following months. She came over for dinner every Sunday. We watched old movies, talked about her job, avoided talking about Brett unless she needed to vent. One Sunday in September, she asked, "Can we try again, Dad?" Like really try? Build something better than what we had before. We're already doing that, I said. Every Sunday dinner, every phone call, every honest conversation. That's building. I want you to trust me again. I do trust you. Trust isn't about never making mistakes. It's about how you handle them after. She helped me plant flowers in the garden that afternoon. Helen's favorite, purple irises. We worked quietly together, the way families do, comfortable in silence. Brett signed the divorce papers, she mentioned casually. It'll be final next month. How do you feel about that? Relieved. Sad for what I thought we had, but mostly relieved. I nodded. That's healthy. She wiped dirt from her hands. I never thanked you for not giving up on me. Calvin drove with the window rolled down, the warm wind brushing his arm like an old friend. The hum of the engine was steady, calm, nothing like the frantic noise his life had become over the past year. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel watched, judged, or taken advantage of. He just was. The new truck wasn't about replacing the old one. It was about reclaiming something inside himself, his dignity, his steadiness, the part of him that believed he still had years left to live, not just endure. Melanie was rebuilding her life too, quietly, sincerely. They didn't talk about the past much. They didn't need to. Healing didn't always sound like apologies. Sometimes it sounded like sitting together in silence without pain. The sun dipped low across the fields, gold and generous. Calvin smiled to himself and whispered, I didn't get revenge. I got my life back.